Hey y'all. Today's going to be a slightly different episode than usual. First of my unscripted ones, for sure. A lot of the projects I'm working on right now are still in progress, so this is sort of spur of the moment, spontaneous idea. I thought I would go through my watch list of horror films that I haven't seen yet but want to, and share them with you, so maybe you could give me feedback on which ones you think are worth watching, and maybe which ones you'd like to hear me talk about. So let's start with, I think the earliest decade I have on my watch list is the 1930s. Let's start with this one first. All right. The Invisible Man came out in 1933. After experimenting on himself and becoming invisible, scientist Jack Griffin, now aggressive due to the drug's effects, seeks a way to reverse the experiment at any cost. I know they made a remake of this more recently. I haven't seen that one either. This one doesn't have a bad score, mostly rating higher, 3.9. I do want to watch a lot of like the old original Monster Universe movies. Haven't gotten around to them yet. It's pretty short though, only 71 minutes. Alright, on to the next one. Dracula. I've technically seen Dracula before, not the original. I've seen Bram Stoker's Dracula with like Gary Oldman, but there are about a million different versions of Dracula. Vampires are one of my favorite kind of supernatural characters though, so I'd like to try to watch more of them. This one was released in 1931. A British estate agent travels to Transylvania to meet the mysterious Count Dracula, who is interested in leasing a London castle. After Dracula enslaves the agent and drives him to insanity, the pair return to London together, where Dracula, a secret bloodsucker, begins preying on socialites. Sounds like pretty close to the original story. I would have to actually watch it myself to know if that's true. 3.6, that's pretty good. Also, only 74 minutes. These 1930s ones seem to be a little bit shorter. Frankenstein. Which I've obviously, if you've watched my channel, I've watched the most recent remake of Frankenstein in 2025, which I loved, even though I know it's not super accurate to the original story. This one came out in 1931 also. Henry Frankenstein pieces together body parts in the hope of bringing a human-like creature to life. The mad scientist's dreams are shattered by his monstrous creation, awakening with rage to a world that hates and fears him. Henry Frankenstein. That's an interesting choice. I wonder why he isn't still called Victor. 3.8, that's good. 70, very short, very nice. All right. We've done with the 30s for now. If anyone has any more recommendations for 1930s horror movies, I'd love to hear them. Always trying to watch older movies too. On to the 40s. Cat People. I haven't heard anyone say anything about this specifically, but it is one of the more well-known ones when you look through horror movies from the 1940s on this website. So, Cat People, 1942. One has an interesting tagline. She knew strange, fierce pleasures that no other woman could ever feel. Is she gonna get down with a cat? A Serbian emigre in Manhattan believes that, because of an ancient curse, any physical intimacy with the man she loves will turn her into a feline predator. Alright. It's pretty interesting. 3.7, 73 minutes, awesome. I wonder if it has... Oh, I wasn't prepared for how sad this film would be. That's an interesting... I'm not going to read too much into the... I don't want to get any spoilers. Alright. My other one from the 1940s is The Wolfman. I've technically seen the remake Wolfman that came out in more recent years. Again, don't think that's very fitting to this particular story of it. I think it told a completely different story, so... The Wolfman, 1941. After his brother's death, Larry Talbot returns home to his father and the family estate. Events soon take a turn for the worse when Larry is bitten by a werewolf. Simple story, interesting to see where it'll go. It's a classic. I've been recommended this, actually by my physical therapist. She likes it a lot. A lot of the practical effects impressed her, so Interested in seeing that. 3.5, only 70 minutes long. I am loving how short these older movies are. Not that longer ones can't be good, but sometimes some movies overstay their welcome. Let's go to the 1950s. Slightly more on this one. Alright, House of Wax. I have seen the remake with Jared Padalecki. I don't know if these two are pretty similar in story. I'd be interested in maybe comparing and contrasting them. House of Wax, 1953. A sculptor opens a wax museum to showcase the likenesses of famous historical figures, but quickly runs into trouble when his business partner demands the exhibits become more extreme in order to increase profits. That already sounds pretty different than the other one. 3.5. Vincent Price. I haven't actually watched any Vincent Price movies before, so that'd be interesting. 88 minutes long. The next one is The Fly. I love the remake of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. It's one of my favorite movies. David Cronenberg. The Fly. Industrialist Francois Delambra is called late at night by his sister-in-law Helen, who tells him that she's just killed her husband. Reluctant at first, she eventually explains to the police that he invented a matter transportation apparatus and, while experimenting on himself, a fly entered the chamber. That's interesting. It sounds like how he turned into a fly went the same way as the other movie, but it seems like instead of telling it as it's happening, it's telling it after the fact, so that might be an interesting way to experience the story. 3.5, pretty good still. 94 minutes, a little bit longer. Alright, what's the next one? Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Still haven't seen any version of this one. I know it's a classic. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956. A small-town doctor learns that the population of his community is being replaced by motionless alien duplicants. Simple, interesting. I'm trying to think, is Invasion of the Body Snatchers what inspired The Thing? Because that would be really cool if it was. 3.8, very good. 80 minutes, short. Alright, Creature from the Black Lagoon. All of these are pretty much classics. There's so many movies I haven't seen, it would really just surprise you, the amount of movies I haven't seen still. I'm really working through them. Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954. When scientists exploring the Amazon River stumble upon a missing link connecting humans and fish, they plan to capture it for later study. But the creature has plans of his own, and has set his sights on the lead scientist's beautiful fiancée, Kay. Wonder if Guillermo del Toro took any inspiration from this one. 3.5, 79 minutes. Pretty good. Alright. Diabolic. And this one is from 1955. The cruel and abusive headmaster of a boarding school, Michael Delasalle, is murdered by an unlikely duo, his meek wife and the mistress he brazenly flaunts. The women become increasingly unhinged by a series of odd occurrences after Delasalle's corpse mysteriously disappears. Okay, well, straight up, we support women's wrongs here, so good for them. I mean, obviously it doesn't turn out well for them from the last part of the description, but interesting to see. Even a higher rating than the other ones so far, 4.2. It is longer, though. 117 minutes, but it sounds worth it. It sounds pretty interesting. Alright, that's the last one for the 1950s. Let's move on to the 1960s, see if I have any there. Quite a few. Let's go Rosemary's Baby. This one came out in 1968. A young couple, Rosemary and Guy, moves into an infamous New York apartment building known by frightening legends and mysterious events, with the purpose of starting a family. That's pretty vague, so I'm a little intrigued by that one. 4.2, also pretty good score. 138 minutes. It's a little bit longer, but I mean, with a premise like that, it's just really intriguing. Like, I want to know more, you know? next one is Eyes Without a Face. This one came out in 1960. Funny. Dr. Genesee is riddled with guilt after an accident that he caused disfigures the face of his daughter, the once beautiful Christiane, who outsiders believe is dead. Dr. Genesee, along with accomplice and laboratory assistant Louise, kidnaps young women and brings them to Genesee Mansion. After rendering his victims unconscious, Dr. Genesee removes their faces and attempts to graft them on to Christiane's. That'd be interesting to see what the actual, effects are like in 1960, but I am very intrigued to see, how well it looks, taking people's faces off. 3.9, not bad, 84 minutes, another short one. I like that. Alright. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? This one came out in 1962. A former vaudeville child star viciously torments her paraplegic sister in their decaying Hollywood mansion. Doesn't sound like we're getting a lot of information, so I am interested in if there's a little bit more that description isn't telling us. 4.2, that's very well scored, I think. 135 minutes. Stars Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. Interesting. I haven't seen any Joan Crawford movies yet. Maybe I will when I watch this one finally. Alright, the next one is The Birds. I have wanted to watch more Hitchcock. I've technically only watched one so far, Psycho. So, that's a good thing to have on my list, maybe. 1963. Thousands of birds flock into a seaside town and terrorize the residents in a series of deadly attacks. Sounds kind of funny, honestly. I mean, when you think about it happening in real life, it would be pretty scary if every time you went outside birds attacked you, but I don't know if watching it in movie form would be really that threatening. 3.7, not bad. 119 minutes. Could do that sometime. 13 Ghosts. I actually watched the remake with Matthew Lillard in it recently. I would guarantee they're probably pretty different, but I wouldn't know. 1960. The reclusive Dr. Zorba has died and left his sprawling mansion to his nephew Cyrus and his family. They will need to search the house to find the doctor's fortune, but along with the property itself, they have also inherited the occultist collection of 13 ghosts. I mean, it sounds kind of similar. The other one probably is a little bit more, flashy and campy and stuff. 3.1, not great, could be better, but I'll still watch it sometime so I can compare them. Other one is The Innocents. Alright. 1961. In a mid-19th century Essex country house, a young governess for 2 children becomes convinced that the house and grounds are haunted by ghosts and the children are being possessed. Is this the turn of the screw? I haven't read it. I did watch The Haunting of Bly Manor, but I know that Mike Flanagan, as he will do, very much just took inspiration from the story and did not adapt it. So if that is actually the turning of the screw, I'd be interested in watching this. 4.1, that's really well rated. Only 100 minutes too. Alright. Oni Baba. I actually watched the, not American remake because they're British. I guess the British remake that came out this year, The Dreadful, with Kit Harington and Sophie Turner. It was a little bit dull. I'm hoping that the original would be a little bit more to the point, and maybe just done better in general, but I'll have to see sometime. Oni Baba, 1964. While her son Kichi is away at war, a woman and her daughter-in-law survive by killing samurai who stray into their swamp, then selling whatever valuables they find. Both are devastated when they learn that Kichi has died, but his wife soon begins an affair with a neighbor who survived the war. Hachi. The mother disapproves, and when she can't steal Hachi for herself, tries to scare her daughter-in-law with a mysterious mask from a dead samurai. It'd be interesting if it has, I'd be interested to see if it has the same story twists as the other one. So, 4.1, very good. Only 105 minutes. Alright, let's move on to the 70s. I've watched a few 70s horror movies so far, and I like some of them. I'm a little controversial when it comes to, like, classic horror movies. Some of them I really like, some of them, boring for me, so be interesting to see. The Exorcist, I'm sure at least one of you will be like, really, you haven't watched that yet? I haven't gotten around to it. Came out in 1973. When a mysterious entity possesses a young girl, her mother seeks the help of 2 Catholic priests to save her life. I know it's a classic. I personally do not love possession movies or religious horror movies so much. Like, I watched one Conjuring movie and I'm like, that's enough for me. But maybe this one would scare the pants off of me. I don't know. I'll have to see. 3.9. Not bad. A little bit mixed. Eraserhead. I haven't watched a lot of David Lynch, so I'm interested in trying this. Came out in 1977. First-time father Henry Spencer tries to survive his industrial environment, his angry girlfriend, and the unbearable screams of his newly born mutant child. And as per usual, I'm sure there is some deeper meaning, because it's David Lynch. It is rated 3.8, and it's only 89 minutes. That's pretty good. Alright, The Vampire Lovers. I can't even tell you how many vampire movies I have on this list, because bad or good, I just kind of want to see as many vampire movies as possible, just to see how many different stories people can tell with them. I've watched some really shitty ones, I've watched some really great ones, just very interested in it. Alright, this came out in 1970. In the heart of Styria, the Karnstein family, even after their mortal deaths, rise from their tombs, spreading evil in the countryside in their lust for fresh blood. Baron Hartog, whose family are all victims of Karnstein vampirism, opens their graves and drives a stake through their diabolical hearts. One grave he cannot locate is that of the legendary, beautiful Mircalla Karnstein. Years of peace follow that grisly night until Mircalla reappears to avenge her family's decimation and satisfy her desire for blood. Also looks like possible, lesbian vampires, which is fun. 3.3. Not bad. 91 minutes, and it's streaming on Tubi. I know there are a lot of jokes about the funny names of streaming services these days, but Tubi honestly has so many gems, whether they're bad or good. It just, whenever you're looking for something that's not super popular, but you still want to watch it, it's usually on Tubi, and I love that. Okay, House. Another foreign horror movie that I want to watch. I love American horror just fine, and I've tried, other European horror recently, but I definitely want to get more into Japanese horror. Any sort of anything that anyone wants to recommend me, I'm very interested in. House, 1977. Hoping to find a sense of connection to her late mother, Gorgeous, that's an interesting name, takes a trip, I wonder if that's a translation, takes a trip with her friends to visit her aunt's ancestral house in the countryside. The girls soon discover there is more to the old house than meets the eye. Very interesting. Not a lot there in the description, so I'm sure it's probably deeper. I've heard this one gets pretty strange, so I'm interested to see where it goes. 4 stars. That's really good. Only 88 minutes, too, so I might have to jump on that one sooner than later. The Hills Have Eyes. This one came out in 1977. I've heard it's pretty intense, but I haven't heard actually what happens in it because I'm trying to stay away from spoilers. Taking an ill-advised detour en route to California, the Carter family soon run into trouble when their RV breaks down in the middle of the desert. Stranded, they find themselves at the mercy of monstrous cannibals lurking in the surrounding hills. I do tend to love cannibal movies. And it's directed by Wes Craven, who directed one of my favorite movies, Scream. And I also do like some of the Freddy movies, okay. 3.1. Not bad. It's okay. 90 minutes is good. Alright, Martin. This one came out in 1977. A young man, convinced he's a vampire, goes to live with his elderly and hostile cousin in a small Pennsylvanian town where he tries to suppress his bloodlust. Be interesting to see if he's actually a vampire or not. Sounds like it could be like a little sad if he's not. 3.7, not bad. 95 minutes. Good runtime. Dawn of the Dead. This one came out 1978. During an ever-growing epidemic of zombies that have risen from the dead, 2 Philadelphia SWAT team members, a traffic reporter, and his television executive girlfriend seek refuge in a secluded shopping mall. I think this one has a remake. I haven't seen that one either, but I kind of just want to start with the original first. 4 stars is really good. Alright. The Brood. I think this is a Cronenberg one, if I'm not mistaken. 1979. Yep, David Cronenberg. I'm very interested in watching more of his movies because I really like Dead Ringers and I really love The Fly. So I want to see more of him. A man tries to uncover an unconventional psychologist therapy techniques on his institutionalized wife, while a series of brutal attacks committed by a brood of mutant children coincides with the husband's investigation. Interesting. 3.6, not bad. Also looks like it was on Tubi, so awesome. The Omen came out in 1976. Immediately after their miscarriage, the U.S. diplomat Robert Thorne adopts the newborn Damien without the knowledge of his wife. Man, you cannot adopt a child without your wife. That's too big of a decision. Yet, what he doesn't know is that their new son is the son of the devil. Well, that's what you get for adopting a child without your wife knowing. I don't know about this one, because, sometimes evil kid movies can be very cheesy to me, but I'd still try it. 3.6, not bad. Alright, When a Stranger Calls. 1979. A student babysitter has her evening disturbed when the phone rings. So begins a series of increasingly terrifying and threatening calls that lead to a shocking revelation. I think I watched the remake, the 2000-something remake, when I was younger. It didn't impress me, but there's always a chance this one's better. 3.1 is not a bad score. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This is the remake. The 1970s remake from 78. The residents of San Francisco are becoming drone-like shadows of their former selves, and as the phenomenon spreads, 2 Department of Health workers uncover the horrifying truth. So it'd be interesting to watch the older version and this one and maybe compare and contrast them. This one's rated 3.9. Not too bad. Nosferatu. I did watch the most recent iteration of this, but I am interested in seeing how they're different, 1979. A real estate agent leaves behind his beautiful wife to go to Transylvania to visit the mysterious Count Dracula. He's just called Count Dracula in this? Well, I mean, I know that Nosferatu is essentially the story of Dracula, except she dies at the end, but it's crazy they're just calling him Count Dracula. And formalize the purchase of a property in Wismar. Very funny to me. 3.8, not bad. Alright, Jaws. Is this considered a horror movie? I guess if you're afraid of sharks, but that's what it's categorized on Letterboxd, so. 1975. This is another one of those that I know it's a classic, and I know some people are going to be like, can't believe you haven't seen that. No one ever tried to show it to me as a kid, When the seaside community of Amity finds itself under attack by a dangerous great white shark, the town's chief of police, a young marine biologist, and a grizzled shark hunter embark on a desperate quest to kill the beast before it strikes again. I do know that this turned public opinion on sharks negatively, and also why we have a lot of movies about sharks, going crazy and killing people. I would like to see this, though, because to see what inspired everyone's just deep fear of sharks. 3.9. Pretty good. All right. Eyes of Laura Mars, 1978. A famous fashion photographer develops a disturbing ability to see through the eyes of a serial killer. I remember why I wanted to watch this one now. It has Brad Dourif in it, but it just sounds interesting either way. 3.3, pretty good score. That is the last of our 1970s. Let's move on to 80s. I have watched quite a few 1980s horror movies. I like them pretty well so far. So let's go with this one, Friday the 13th Part 2. I personally, and I some people that are horror fans are going to be, turned off by this statement. I was sort of just absolutely bored when I watched the first Friday the 13th movie. So I'm very interested to see if this one maybe is more exciting for me. Came out in 1981. 5 years after the horrible bloodbath at Camp Crystal Lake, a new counselors roam the area, not sensing the ominous lurking presence that proves that the grisly legend is real. That's interesting because in the first one it reveals, spoilers, that Jason is actually not doing the killings. It was his mom, so he actually the killer in this one. That's interesting. It's only rated 3 stars, but that's not bad. It could be worse. Society. I think this one is a B-horror movie, but I do like sort of offbeat, stranger ones that not people have heard of sometimes. 1989. Bill Whitney is worried that he is different to his sister and parents. They mix with other upper-class people while Bill is more down to earth. Even his girlfriend seems a bit odd. All is revealed when Bill returns home to find a party in full swing. Well, it seems like some body horror going on from, the poster there, so pretty interesting. 3.5 is a good score. Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker. This one came out in 1981. I think I got this as a recommendation for more B-horror movies, I think. Or maybe it was Final Boys in horror. I've wanted to try to watch more movies that have final boys because I'm intrigued by that. An orphan teenager finds himself being dominated by his aunt, who's hellbent on keeping him with her at all costs. Sounds pretty ooky. 3.3, but it's kind of vague, so I'm interested. Videodrome. All right. 1983. We got another David Cronenberg. Let's go. As the president of a trashy TV channel, Max Wren, that's a very sort of action-y name, Max Wren, is desperate for a new programming to attract viewers. When he happens upon Videodrome, a TV show dedicated to gratuitous torture and punishment, Max sees a potential hit and broadcasts the show on his channel. However, after his girlfriend auditions for the show and never returns, Max investigates the truth behind Videodrome and discovers that the graphic violence may not be as fake as he thought. Oh, and Debbie Harry's in this one. Cool. 3.9 is not a bad score. Always want to watch more David Cronenberg. And another David Lynch one. Blue Velvet, 1986. The discovery of a severed human ear found in a field leads a young man on an investigation related to a beautiful, mysterious nightclub singer and a group of psychopathic criminals who have kidnapped her child. I know this wasn't the first time David Lynch worked with Kyle MacLachlan. I think it was the second time. The first one was Dune. But it'd be very interesting to see, sort of the earlier stages of them working together. 4.1, that's a very good score. Jag's Back. I was not recommended this by any sort of lists or anything. I simply just want to watch more James Spader movies. I was just really impressed by him in Secretary and him in Crash. Those are my two favorite movies that he's in, and I want to watch more of him. This one, I don't know if it'll be good or not. Jack's Back, 1988. A young doctor is suspected when a series of Jack the Ripper copycat killings is committed. However, when the doctor himself is murdered, his identical twin brother claims to have seen visions of the true killer. That sounds very cheesy. I don't know. 2.9. Yeah, that one might be not as good, but I still want to check it out sometime. Psycho 2. So yeah, I had said that the one Hitchcock movie I'd seen was Psycho. Psycho 2 is not directed by Hitchcock. It's apparently directed by Richard Franklin. Came out in 1983. Norman Bates is declared sane and released from the facility in which he was being held, despite the complaints of Lila Loomis, sister of his most famous victim. Is he really cured, or will he kill again? 3.4, it's not a bad score, which is interesting because a lot of, sometimes you don't need a horror movie sequel, but they'll make them anyway because they can. I am interested because Anthony Perkins was really he was sort of captivating in Psycho, so I'd be interested to see if they could pull off a sequel and make it be, alright. Brain Damage. I think this is more of a B-horror, or at least lesser known. 1988. Brian comes under the addictive spell of a parasite with the ability to induce euphoric hallucinations in its hosts. Huh. I like the poster there, and that is very intense. 3.5. It's not bad. I think it's just maybe lesser known. All right. Scrolling up. Creepshow. I think this is an anthology one. Yeah, by George A. Romero again. 1982. 5 grisly tales from a 1950s style comic, including a murdered father rising from beyond, a bizarre meteor, a vengeful husband, a mysterious crate's occupant, and a plague of cockroaches. Anthologies can sometimes be like hit or miss, because not all of them are the same quality, but I'm interested in hearing it. Seeing it, 3.5. Not bad. The Howling. I've been trying to find more werewolf movies. I love werewolves. I tend to think that their movies aren't as good in quality as vampire movies because they're a little bit harder to make scary. They can be kind of cheesy looking, so this one came out in 1981. After a bizarre and near-fatal encounter with a serial killer, a newswoman is sent to a rehabilitation center whose inhabitants may not be what they seem. Are they all werewolves? Who knows? 3.3, not bad. The Blob. So this is the 80s remake of it. So I would probably be watching both and comparing and contrasting. 1988. In Arborville, California, 3 high school students try to protect their hometown from a gelatinous alien life form that engulfs everything it touches. Alright. It's got 3.6. It's not bad. I would just like to compare and contrast horror movie originals and remakes some days. Maybe that could be a series on the channel if anyone's interested. Gothic. It came out in 1986. Living on an estate on the shores of Lake Geneva, Lord Byron is visited by Percy and Mary Shelley. Together with Byron's lover Claire Claremont and aided by hallucinogenic substances, they devise an evening of ghoulish tales. However, when confronted by horrors, ostensibly of their own creation, it becomes difficult to tell apparition from reality. It's pretty interesting. It's the night that inspired Mary Shelley to actually write Frankenstein, but if it was actually spooky. 3.3 is not a bad score. The next one is Intruder. I think this is probably a lesser known one. I haven't heard anyone else talk about it. Came out in 1989. The overnight stock crew of a local supermarket find themselves being stalked and slashed by a mysterious maniac. That's a fun setting. I haven't seen a lot of supermarket horror movies before. 3.2 is not a bad score. The Vanishing. I think I did hear someone on a podcast talk about this once. Specifically that it, like, really affected them long after they had finished it. 1988. Rex and Saskia, a young couple in love, are on vacation when they stop at a busy service station. Saskia is abducted in broad daylight, and 3 years pass with no answers or closure surrounding her disappearance. Rex has nearly given up on all hope when he suddenly begins receiving letters from her abductor. 3 years later, that is haunting. And it's 4 stars. That's really good. Oh, my cursor is acting crazy right now. I don't think you can see it because I'm screen recording. Sleepaway Camp. I think that's more one of those B-horror movies. I know sometimes controversial depending on, who you ask. But I haven't seen it yet, so. 1983. Years after a terrible boating accident, Angela is sent to Camp Arawak, where a series of bizarre and violent accidents begin to claim the lives of various campers. It's another camp slasher. And, they can be interesting sometimes. Depends on who, the direction and the acting, the story. 3.2. Not a bad score. Inferno. This came out in 1980. A young man returns from Rome to his sister's satanic New York apartment house. I wonder if the apartment itself is satanic or if there are rituals going on in it. Be interesting to find out. Evil Dead 2. So yeah, I have seen the first Evil Dead movie. Like, practical effects wise, I think it's a marvel. I don't love it. It's sort of the lack of character. Bruce Campbell, he gives what he can, in that first one. There's not a lot going on for me. So I don't also, love Sam Raimi's directing style, except for, like, the Spider-Man movies. But I would be willing to try again with Evil Dead 2. Came out in 1987. Ash Williams and his girlfriend Linda find a log cabin in the woods with a voice recording from an archaeologist who had recorded himself reciting ancient chants from the Book of the Dead. As they play the recording, an evil power is unleashed, taking over Linda's body. Seems like maybe like a remake of Evil Dead, but with less characters. So that's interesting. I wonder if I'd like it less or more than the first one. 4 stars. But seems like a lot of people like it. The Stepfather. Oops, I just clicked on the whole one instead of creating a new tab. 1987. Seemingly mild-mannered Henry Morrison has just murdered his entire family. After adopting a new identity in Skipping Town, he begins building a new relationship with a widow and her teenage daughter. However, he soon begins struggling to hide his true identity and maintain a grip on reality. I think I chose this one specifically because Terry O'Quinn is in it, and I absolutely love him from Lost. So it'd be interesting to see if he can sort of be that darker sort of character. I'd like to see if he could pull it off. Children of the Corn. I don't think this one would be good, but I love seeing Stephen King adaptations, even though I don't always love his writing style. I just like to see them anyway, because he does come up with interesting story ideas, even if I don't always love how he executes them. This came out in 1984. A traveling couple end up in an abandoned Nebraska town inhabited by a cult of murderous children who worship a demon that lives in the local cornfields. At the very least, it sounds fun. The rating is 2.7 though, so I doubt that it's going to be like a great movie. My Bloody Valentine. I think this is, obviously this is the original one, but I think there is a remake with Jensen Ackles that I also have on my watch list. We might get to that later. This one came out in 1981. 20 years after a Valentine's Day tragedy claimed the lives of 5 miners, Nope, that says Harry, sorry. Harry Warden returns for a vengeful massacre among teen sweethearts gearing up for another party. There aren't a lot of, like, Valentine's Day horror movies, so that's pretty fun. 3.2 is not a bad score. Prom Night. I specifically want to watch this one because it's, you know, more of an 80s classic. You know, it's one of those ones that's mentioned in Scream, and I haven't seen it yet. Came out in 1980. At a high school senior prom, a masked killer stalks 4 teenagers who were responsible for the accidental death of a classmate 6 years prior. So it's like one of those, you know, whodunits, who's trying to get them. 2.6 is not a great score. I thought that would range higher for it being a classic, but maybe it's a little cheesy. I'm still wanting to see it, though, and probably the remake so I can do a comparison between them. Cat People. Okay, so this is the remake of Cat People in 1982. After years of separation, Irina Gallier and her minister brother Paul reunite in New Orleans. When zoologists capture a wild panther, Irina is drawn to the cat, and zoo curator Oliver to her. Soon, Paul will have to reveal the family secret, that when sexually aroused, they revert into predatory jungle cats. Alright. 3.2. It sounds crazy, but, you know, I'm willing to give it a try. An American Werewolf in London. I have technically seen this, but it was when I was younger, and I was being shown it, so I didn't really care, wasn't really paying attention. So I'd like to give it another try. 1981. American tourists David and Jack are savagely attacked by an unidentified animal while hiking on the Yorkshire moors. After retiring to the home of a beautiful nurse to recuperate, why not a hospital? Okay. David soon begins experiencing disturbing changes to his body and mind. Like I said, I'm up for more werewolf movies. So, hopefully it impresses me. Let's move on to the 90s now. 90s is one of those ones that I do like quite a bit. But, you know, it can be hit and miss. Probably watch the most 2000s horror movies if I think about my list, but Idle Hands, 1999. Anton is a cheerful but exceedingly non-ambitious 17-year-old stoner who lives to stay buzzed, watch TV, and moon over Molly, the beautiful girl who lives next door. However, turns out that the old cliche about idle hands being the devil's playground has a kernel of truth after all. So, I specifically have this one on my list because of Devon Sawa, who is in, Final Destination, and also Seth Green. I don't know if the humor will be my style, really, but I just kind of want to give it a try anyway, 3.3, not a bad score for, one of the sillier movies. And Misery, another classic and Stephen King adaptation that I haven't seen yet. It came out in 1990. After an accident, acclaimed novelist Paul Sheldon is rescued by a nurse who claims to be his biggest fan. Her obsession takes a dark turn when she holds him captive in her remote Colorado home and forces him to write back to life the popular literary character he killed off. That's interesting. It's sort of like a timeless story because of how people still get overly invested sort of to a personal degree. People, artists they look up to. I'm not surprised by the high rating because this one's a classic. The Devil's Advocate. I think I probably just picked this one because it has Keanu Reeves in it. 1997. Aspiring Florida defense lawyer Kevin Lomax accepts a job at a New York law firm. With the stakes getting higher every case, Kevin quickly learns that his boss has something far more evil planned. I mean, how bad could it be, right? 3.7 stars. I'm interested. I don't always, sometimes Keanu's a little silly, so I don't know if he'll be able to pull that off, but we'll see, right? Okay, I think this one's on my list specifically because I watched another YouTuber's video about it. Zane Parker. I'll link that down in the description below. Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight came out in 1995. Ex-soldier Frank Breaker is the guardian of an ancient key that can unlock tremendous evil. The sinister collector is a demon who wants the key so he can initiate the apocalypse. On the run from wicked mercenaries for almost 90 years, so he's sort of probably ageless then. Breaker finally stops at a boarding house in New Mexico where, with the help of its residents, he plans to face off against the collector and his band of ghouls, preventing them from ever seizing the key. 3.4. So, lesser known, maybe a B movie, but it sounds interesting. Tremors. I'm always wanting to watch this one, but it's never streaming anywhere. Came out in 1990. I love sort of deserty horror movies where the settings in the desert. You don't get a whole lot of that, but I do tend to like them. Val McKee and Earl Bassett are in a fight for their lives when they discover that their desolate town has been infested with gigantic man-eating creatures that live below the ground. Could be a little silly, but I think it looks pretty fun. 3.5 is also not a bad score. Alright, I think this is a horror movie Snow White adaptation. I think it was last year I actually watched a foreign film. I think it was The Ugly Stepsister, which was a Cinderella horror remake from the perspective of the stepsister, and that was my favorite adaptation of Cinderella and also one of my favorite movies of the year. So I'm interested in watching more, horror remakes of classic stories like that. This came out in 1997. When young Lily's mother dies in childbirth, her father remarries Lady Claudia, a woman ruled by an evil mirror with the power to make her queen of all living things. After escaping an attempt on her life, Lily finds herself lost in a dark forest, where living happily ever after seems unlikely. It has Sigourney Weaver in it, so maybe it could be good. I'm not sure. Okay, next one. From Dusk Till Dawn. Came out in 1996. It's really weird. I thought this was a Quentin Tarantino film. And I think I was just confused because it has Quentin Tarantino in it. So maybe I will like it better. I was sort of putting this one off because I don't love Quentin Tarantino's directing style, but I have a little more reason to try watching it now. After kidnapping a father and his 2 kids, the Gecko brothers head south to a seedy Mexican bar to hide out in safety, unaware of its notorious clientele. I know this one's a vampire movie, so I gotta get around to it sometime. 3.5, good score. Death Becomes Her. I know this one's sort of like a campy classic. Came out in 1992. Madeline is married to Ernest, who was once her arch-rival Helen's fiancé. That's messy. After recovering from a mental breakdown, Helen vows to kill Madeline and steal back Ernest. Unfortunately for everyone, the introduction of a magic potion causes things to be a great deal more complicated than a mere murder plot. And it has Meryl Streep in it, so I gotta get that to watch sometime. I do think it might be a little bit silly. I mean, it sounds like high drama, so that could be fun. Mimic. This one came out in 1997. And it's Guillermo del Toro. I didn't realize that when I put it on my list. A disease carried by common cockroaches is killing Manhattan children. In an effort to stop the epidemic, an entomologist, Susan Tyler, creates a mutant breed of insect that secretes a fluid to kill the roaches. This mutant breed was engineered to die after 1 generation, but 3 years later, Susan finds out that the species has survived and evolved into a large, gruesome monster that can mimic the human form. Ooh, sounds nasty. I think bugs are fascinating, but they also scare the shit out of me, so that one would probably get me. I'm not sure. Candyman, another classic that I should have already watched by now. I love Tony Todd in the Final Destination movies, so it's ridiculous that I haven't watched this yet. 1992. The Candyman, a murderous soul with a hook for a hand, is accidentally summoned to reality by a skeptic grad student researching the monster's myth. 3.7. I'm surprised. I thought that score would be higher. Because, like, everyone that I, like, have ever heard talk about the movie says it's, like, amazing, so. Cure, 1997. A wave of gruesome murder sweeps Tokyo, and the only link is a bloody X carved into the victims' necks. In each case, the murderer is found nearby and recalls nothing of the crime. Huh. Detective Takabe and psychologist Sakuma are called in to figure out the connection, but their investigation goes nowhere. An odd young man, arrested near the latest murder, has a strange effect on everyone with whom he comes into contact. Takabe starts a series of interrogations to determine the man's connection with the killings. Now that sounds really intriguing. Sounds a little bit more psychological. 4.3, that's a really good score. Brain Dead. That sounds really familiar. I feel like that was the title of another movie. But, okay. 1992, directed by Peter Jackson. When a Sumatran rat monkey bites Lionel Cosgrove's mother, she's transformed into a zombie and begins killing and transforming the entire town while allowing the racists to keep things under control. You know what? I think this is actually probably on my list because I had been looking for the other movie called Brain Dead, and I found this one first, and I thought it was that, and I put it on this list because I don't remember even ever hearing the premise of this movie before. I mean, maybe someday I'll watch it anyway. The People Under the Stairs. I also found this one through that YouTuber Zane Parker. He was talking about Final Boys in horror, and I definitely want to check this one out. Another Wes Craven movie. Came out in 1991. Trapped inside a fortified home owned by a mysterious couple, a young boy quickly learns the true nature of the homicidal inhabitants and secret creatures hidden deep within the walls. So, I imagine there's some sort of, like, as the title suggests, some sort of people under the stairs, but since they're called creatures, that's interesting. I wonder where they came from, what happened to them. Urban legend. I feel like this is one of those sort of teen movies from the 90s in the same sort of genre-ish sort of thing as Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm not sure though. Came out in 1998. College campus is plagued by a vicious serial killer murdering students in ways that correspond to various urban legends. That could be fun. Unfortunately, it has Jared Leto in it, though, so I'm less interested, and the score is not too great, 2.8, but I think I'll still give it a try sometime just to say I did. Funny Games. I know this one is more psychological. I think it's like a home invasion one. 1997. Two psychotic young men take a mother, father, and son hostage in their vacation cabin and force them to play sadistic games with one another for their own amusement. I don't watch a ton of home invasion movies, but I know this one is like one of those ones everyone says you have to see. So, I do want to get to it eventually. Night of the Living Dead. I think this is the remake. Yeah. I thought the first one was pretty impressive for how long ago it was made, and I enjoyed it. I don't know if this one would be as good. Came out in 1990. A ragtag group barricade themselves in an old Pennsylvania farmhouse to remain safe from a horde of flesh-eating ghouls ravaging the Northeast. 3.4. So maybe it wouldn't be a bad remake. This is the remake of Psycho, which just really intrigues me. Came out in 1998. I don't think it would be good, but I'm just really interested. It's directed by Gus Van Sant, who he directed one of my favorite movies, so, I want to try it anyway. A young female embezzler arrives at the Bates Motel, which has terrible secrets of its own. I mean, everyone knows the story of Psycho. And if you don't, go watch Psycho. This has a rating of 2.4 stars, though, so I feel like it's probably not a very good remake, and Vince Vaughn plays Norman Bates, so, I'm still really curious. And next one is the original version of The Ring. Just entitled Ring, though. 1998. A mysterious video has been linked to a number of deaths, and when an inquisitive journalist finds the tape and views it herself, she sets in motion a chain of events that puts her own life in danger. I'm interested in seeing the original. I do like the American version of The Ring. Do think it's a little bit cheesy, but a little bit of cheese and horror, there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I mean? I'm just wondering if maybe the original would be a little bit scarier to me. Perfect Blue. I haven't seen any animated horror films yet, so I'm interested in this one. Came out in 1997. Rising pop star Mima quits singing to pursue a career as an actress. After she takes up a role on a popular detective show, her handlers and collaborators begin turning up murdered. Harboring feelings of guilt and haunted by visions of her former self, Mima's reality and fantasy meld into a frenzied paranoia. I think this is one of the inspirations for The Black Swan, which I love. Didn't watch until, for the first time until recently, like a few years ago. But I'd be really interested to see how much inspiration they drew from this movie. Audition. I heard this one's, intense, but I don't know what it's about, so 1999. 7 years after the death of his wife, widower Shinji Haru seeks advice on how to find a new wife from a colleague. Taking advantage of their position as a film company, they stage an audition. Interviewing a series of women, Shinji Haru is enchanted by the quiet Asami, but soon things take a twisted turn as Asami isn't what she seems to be. Well, maybe he shouldn't have been doing it in such a creepy way. Go about things a different way, sir. I'm interested in that one, though. Alright. In the Mouth of Madness, 1994. I think I specifically put this one on my list because Sam Neill was in it. I was really, I'm not going to say perplexed. I was just very sort of, just my eyes were just glued to the screen when I watched Possession, so I'm very interested in watching him in another horror movie. An insurance investigator visits a small town while looking into the strange disappearance of a popular horror novelist. He soon finds that the impact of the author's books is far more than inspirational. So maybe what is going on in the books is going on in real life? I mean, that's just a guess. I don't know for sure. The next one is Graveyard Shift. I think this is another Stephen King adaptation. I think it's also another one that I put on my list because Brad Dourif is in it. 1990. John Hall is a drifter who wanders into a small town in Maine. Yep, Maine. He needs a job and decides to seek employment at the community's top business, a large textile mill. He is hired to work the graveyard shift, from around midnight to dawn, and along with a few others, he is charged with cleaning out the basement. This task strikes the workers as simple enough, but then, as they proceed deeper underground, they encounter an unspeakable monstrosity intent on devouring them all. From the poster, it looks like some rats. I don't know what else is down there. The rating is 2.6, so it might not be great. Like I said, though, I'm very interested in just people taking Stephen King stories and doing whatever they see fit with them. Some of the older adaptations I like Pet Sematary, but Next movie is Death Machine, 1994. Chank Armaments, I think, is experimenting with the ultimate fighting machine, which is part human, part machine. So far, the Hard Man project has been unreliable and has killed a number of innocent people. The genius behind this project is Jack, who lives in a world of models, toys, and magazines. When he is fired by Kale for killing a few corporate officers, he unleashes the ultimate killing machine called the War Beast against Kale and those who would help her. It sounds interesting. Only 3 stars, but I am interested in watching more sci-fi horror. I really liked Alien when I watched it last year, so if anyone has any recommendations on some good sci-fi horror, I'm interested. The last one of the 90s is The Exorcist 3. Obviously, I haven't watched the first Exorcist, and I would need to be able to watch this one. I'm just going to read the description anyway. On the 15th anniversary of the exorcism that claimed Father Damien Carras's life, I'm going to forget that spoiler, because I don't know who that is yet. Police Lieutenant Kinderman's world is once again shattered when a boy is found decapitated and savagely crucified. That sounds quite intense. I didn't realize The Exorcist went that hard. Okay. Next, we are moving on to the 2000s, I think, which is probably the decade I have watched the most horror movies from. Maybe that or the 2010s, but I couldn't tell you right this moment. The Loved Ones. I think this is another one of the ones that's been sort of told as one of the more disturbing movies, but I don't think it's super well known. 2009. When Brent turns down his classmate Lola's invitation to the prom, she concocts a wildly violent plan for revenge. I think she, holds him captive? Not captive. That's what it looks like. 3.3, not bad. Shaun of the Dead. I know this is more of a comedy one, but horror comedy is a fun genre. I haven't explored that much. 2004. Sean lives a supremely uneventful life, which revolves around his girlfriend, his mother, and above all, his local pub. This gentle routine is threatened when the dead return to life and make strenuous attempts to snack on ordinary Londoners. I'm not, a huge fan of zombie movies, but if they're done in an interesting way, I do like them, so. Splice. I have heard this one is not great, but it is disturbing and strange, and it has Adrian Brody in it, so. 2009. Elsa and Clive, 2 young rebellious scientists, defy legal and ethical boundaries and forge ahead with a dangerous experiment, splicing together human and animal DNA to create a new organism. Named Dren, the creature rapidly develops from a deformed female infant into a beautiful but dangerous winged human chimera who forges a bond with both of her creators, only to have that bond turn deadly. I don't like how they describe her as beautiful. The connotations of that and the bond that they form. Is one of them gonna fuck the creature? 2.5. Yeah, that's not a great score, but I still want to watch it someday. Cloverfield. I have technically, this has been on in front of me before, but it wasn't the right moment. I think I was just like, oh, shaky cam, kind of sick to my stomach. Another time. Came out in 2008. This is sci-fi, though. Sci-fi horror, so I want to watch it. 5 young New Yorkers throw their friend a going-away party the night that a monster the size of a skyscraper descends upon the city. Told from the point of view of their video camera. Oh, so it's fan footage. I like that. The film is a document of their attempt to survive the most surreal, horrifying event of their lives. 3.4 is a good score. Alright. My Bloody Valentine. So this is the remake with Jensen Ackles, I think. I think I'm right. Came out in 2009. That's when him and Jared Padalecki were making a lot of horror movies. 10 years after a Valentine's Day tragedy claimed the lives of 5 minors, Harry Warden returns for a vengeful massacre among teen sweethearts gearing up for another party. Exact same premise as the other one. The score is not great, though, so might have a little bit of that sleazy early 2000s horror vibes to it. Not that great, but I'm still interested. 30 Days a Night came out in 2007. I think this is another vampire one, so I'm very interested in it. This is the story of an isolated Alaskan town that is plunged into darkness for a month each year when the sun sinks below the horizon. As the last rays of light fade, the town is attacked by a bloodthirsty gang of vampires bent on an uninterrupted orgy of destruction. Only the small town's husband and wife sheriff team stand between the survivors and certain destruction. So that's fun. It's like a sort of survivalist vampire film, kind of like Zombies, but not. I like that. Alright, Let the Right One In. I know that this had an American remake. I haven't seen either one of them, but it is a vampire movie, so I want to check that out. 2008. When Oscar, a sensitive, bullied 12-year-old boy, meets his new neighbor, the mysterious and moody Eli, they strike up a friendship. Initially reserved with each other, Oscar and Eli slowly form a close bond, but it soon becomes apparent that she's no ordinary young girl. 4 stars. I definitely that's like higher up on my list. I am very interested in watching more vampire movies, but especially foreign vampire movies. The Others. This one has Nicole Kidman, so I'm interested. 2001. Grace is a religious woman who lives in an old house kept dark because her 2 children, Anne and Nicholas, have a rare sensitivity to light. When the family begins to suspect the house is haunted, Grace fights to protect her children at any cost in the face of strange events and disturbing visions. It'd be interesting to see if it's maybe one of those movies where there's more that's going on than seems apparent. I wonder if maybe it's less what's happening and more what she perceives as happening. Thirst, 2009. I think this is another vampire movie, if I'm not mistaken. A respected priest volunteers for an experimental procedure that may lead to a cure for a deadly virus. He gets infected and dies, but a blood transfusion of unknown origin brings him back to life. Yep, that's what it sounds like. Now he's torn between faith and bloodlust and has a newfound desire for the wife of a childhood friend. That is messy. I want to watch it. I Sell the Dead. I think this is another vampire movie. Might be a little cheesy, but Dominic Monaghan's in it. He's my friend, If we're gonna get parasocial, I just enjoy him. Came out in 2008. 18th century justice catches up with a pair of grave robbers. With only a few hours to go before his date with the guillotine, Arthur Blake tells his life story to Father Francis Duffy. Before long, Arthur spills the beans on how he got started in the grim corpse-peddling business with seasoned ghoul Willie Grimes. Maybe it's not a vampire movie. 3 stars isn't bad. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So this is the remake. I think it has Jared Padalecki in it. No. I'm mistaken. He's in the Friday the 13th remake, I think. Came out in 2003. After picking up a traumatized young hitchhiker, 5 friends find themselves stalked and hunted by a chainsaw-wielding killer and his family of equally psychopathic killers. I'm interested in seeing this story through a 2000s lens instead of a 70s lens. How it will differ, the tone between those times, because early 2000s movies have a very different vibe. They're usually a little bit more gory and a little bit more exploitative, and sometimes misogynistic in a way I don't enjoy, but interesting to see. Pathology. I think, I don't know for sure. This might be a vampire movie. I could be wrong. 2008. No, I think I'm wrong again. I need to stop making claims. Medical student Ted Gray graduates at the top of his class and quickly joins an elite pathology program whose top students invite him into their circle. There he uncovers a gruesome secret. They play a game in which one tries to commit the perfect, undetectable murder. Then the others compete to determine the victim's cause of death. So this is definitely on my list because Milo Ventimiglia is in it. Because I've never heard anyone speak on it, and the rating is pretty shitty at 2.7, but I enjoy him. He's charismatic. My Little Eye. This came out in 2002. 5 young people apply to live in an isolated house together for 6 months, whilst their every move is filmed by numerous cameras. That's pretty timeless. It's like a reality TV show. Score on it, 2.9. Not great, but I'm still curious. Wreck. I think this is a foreign film. Yep. 2007. A television reporter and cameraman follow emergency workers into a dark apartment building and are quickly locked inside with something terrifying. That's very vague. Interested to see what exactly is in the building with them. One Missed Call. 2003. Another horror film that is not from America. People mysteriously start receiving voicemail messages from their future selves. In the form of the sound of them reacting to their own violent deaths, along with the exact date and time of their future death, listed on the message log. The plot thickens as the surviving characters pursue the answers to this mystery, which could save their lives. 3.2. I think they did an American remake that did considerably worse. And if I watched this one, I would watch that one too, just to see how they differed. But that one sounds really intriguing. Cabin Fever. Another sort of woodsy horror film, I would suppose. 2002. A group of 5 college graduates, rent a cabin in the woods and begin to fall victim to a horrifying flesh-eating virus, which attracts the unwanted attention of the homicidal locals. Wow, so they're going through a lot. They're going through a gross flesh-eating virus and crazy murderers. But the scoring is 2.7, so I don't know how great it is. I think I heard someone on YouTube talking about it, and she liked it, but... Pulse. I think this is another Japanese horror film, if I'm not mistaken. If it feels like loading. Came out in 2001. In the immense city of Tokyo, the darkness of the afterlife lures some of its inhabitants, desperately trying to escape the sadness and isolation of the modern world. Sounds like it might be a bit of a darker one. 3.7 is not a bad score. All right. Sunshine, 2007. I think this one has Cillian Murphy in it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, no, I'm right. 50 years into the future, the sun is dying and Earth is threatened by Arctic temperatures. A team of astronauts is sent to revive the sun. But the mission fails. 7 years later, a new team is sent to finish the mission as mankind's last hope. 3.7. Sounds like another sci-fi horror movie, and I'm very interested in that. That was the 2000s. Let's move to the 2010s. See if there's a lot in this category for me to go through. 49 horror films in this category. All right. Let's start with Butterfly Kisses. 2018. A filmmaker discovers a box of videotapes depicting 2 students' disturbing film project featuring a local horror legend, the Peeping Tom. As he sets out to prove the story is real and release it as a work of his own, he loses himself and the film crew following him into his project. 3.1. I specifically wanted to watch this because it is found footage, partially, so that is why it's on my list. Get Out. I know I should have watched this already by now, but I really like Jordan Peele's other horror movies that I've seen, so I will get to this. Chris and his girlfriend Rose go upstate to visit her parents for the weekend. At first, Chris reads the family's overly accommodating behavior as nervous attempts to deal with their daughter's interracial relationship, but as the weekend progresses, a series of increasingly disturbing discoveries lead him to a truth that he never could have imagined. I technically know what the twist is, and that is why I haven't watched it so far, but I will. I want to watch all of his horror movies. My Soul to Take, 2010. This is a Wes Craven movie. I'm not sure it's one of his more highly rated ones, though. On the day the Riverton Ripper vanished without a trace, 7 children were born. Today, they're all turning 16 and turning up dead. 2.5, yeah. Not a great score. But it's Wes Craven. I could give him the benefit of the doubt. Just for fun. Green Room. Anton Yelchin is in this one. 2015. A punk rock band is forced to fight for survival after witnessing an act of violence at a skinhead bar. I've heard this one's pretty brutal, like violence-wise, which is why I've been a little bit more scared. I've been a bit of a wimp about it, but I do want to get to it because Anton Yelchin, I really like his acting. What We Do in the Shadows. I have seen the whole TV series. Have not watched this yet. I know I already should have, but I'll get to it. 2014. Vampire housemates try to cope with the complexities of modern life and show a newly turned hipster some of the perks of being undead. I hope this has like a better framing device than this show did, because at the end of the show we never actually found out why they were being filmed as sort of like a fuck you to the audience, it felt like. So hopefully that one ends a little bit differently. The Love Witch. 2016. A modern-day witch uses her spells and magic to get men to fall in love with her, with deadly consequences. Again, we support women's wrongs. 3.5, not a bad score. Pride and Prejudice with zombies. And zombies, sorry. Don't want to pronounce it wrong. 2016. I have seen Pride and Prejudice. I do enjoy it. This just seems like a really funny thing to do with it, so I'm intrigued, you know? A zombie outbreak has fallen upon the land in this reimagining of Jane Austen's classic tale of the tangled relationships between lovers from different social classes in the 19th century England. Jeez, man. Feisty heroine Elizabeth Bennet is a master of martial arts and weaponry, and the handsome Mr. Darcy is a fierce zombie killer, yet the epitome of upper-class prejudice. As the zombie outbreak intensifies, they must swallow their pride and join forces on the blood-soaked battlefield in order to conquer the undead once and for all. Honestly, bad score. I just think it's such a funny thing to do. It really charms me by how silly it sounds. Insidious. I know that they've made like a million of these, and I think that's why I've avoided it. Patrick Wilson loves being in very popular horror films, like just with series with a million of them. And I don't know if it's just like a jump scare fest or not, so I guess I'd be interested in figuring it out. A family discovers that dark spirits have invaded their home after their son inexplicably falls into an endless sleep. When they reach out to a professional for help, they learn things are a lot more personal than they thought. 3.3. I will give it a chance sometime, even though I'm worried it's just cheap jump scares. Suspiria. I watched the 70s version, and it is very strange, but very beautiful. I do love Luca Guadagnino movies, most of them, not all of them. He makes very beautiful movies. They are very long, though, sometimes. A darkness swirls at the center of a world-renowned dance company, one that will engulf the artistic director, an ambitious young dancer, and a grieving psychotherapist. Some will succumb to the nightmare. Others will finally wake up. That sounds slightly different. I wonder if there's still a witch, like in the other one. Grave Encounters 2. Alright. So, Grave Encounters 1, I guess is funny in a sort of a parody of a ghost hunting show kind of way. But I also think it is like a shit movie. It was like it went on way too long and I just was not enjoying myself. But this one has Richard Harmon in it, and I really loved him in the last Final Destination movie, so I'm going to give this one a chance anyway. Tortured by the ghosts of the demonized insane asylum that killed the crew of Grave Encounters, film students fight to escape death as their own paranormal investigation goes terribly wrong in this horrifying sequel. 2.4. Not surprised with that score there. I'm going to watch it anyway. Vamps. Another horror movie with vampires. I am very predictable. Came out in 2012. The modern-day story focuses on two beautiful young vampires who are living the good nightlife in New York until love enters the picture, and each has to make a choice that will jeopardize their immortality. Just choose each other, you know? Alicia Silverstone and Kristen Ritter, don't let a man come between you guys. You're better than that. Let me in. So this is the American remake of Let the Right One In, I think. Yes. 2010. A bullied young boy befriends a young female vampire who lives in secrecy with her guardian. A remake of the movie Let the Right One In, which was an adaptation of a book. Pretty simple description of it. I want to compare them both. Bird Box, I don't think this one is actually going to be good, and I missed the actual period where everyone was watching it. But I like to see, I like to return to things that were popular once and sort of see, does this hold up? I don't know if it ever held up then. So, 2018. 5 years after an ominous unseen presence drives most of society to suicide, a survivor and her 2 children make a desperate bid to reach safety. 3 stars, not bad. The unseen force causing people to commit suicide kind of reminds me of that bad Shyamalan movie, but it might be better than that. Under the Skin, 2013. A seductive stranger prowls the streets of Glasgow in search of her prey, unsuspecting men who fall under her spell. I wonder if that's a vampire movie or not. I'm not sure. She could be a witch or something. Hush. I think this one was directed by Mike Flanagan. Yep, it definitely was directed by Mike Flanagan. I could tell because it has Kate Siegel in it. He loves putting her in his stuff. A deaf woman is stalked by a psychotic killer in her secluded home. That's interesting to see how she would deal with a killer in a different way than someone who has hearing. 3.2 is not a bad score. Okay. So, Curse of Chucky. I have watched all of the Chucky movies leading up to this one. I have a fondness for them. They're very, very cheesy, but I won't say all of them are worth watching. This one came out in 2013. After her mother's mysterious death, Nika begins to suspect that the talking red-haired doll her visiting niece has been playing with may be the key to the mounting bloodshed and chaos. This one has Fiona Dourif, Brad Dourif's daughter, in it, so that's why I was interested in watching this one, even though it's scored poorly. I'm not even going to talk about the next Chucky movie. Just know that Cult of Chucky is also on there, Our next one is Lords of Chaos, and I know 100% this is on my watch list because I went through a wild Rory Culkin phase last year. Yeah, 2018. A teenager's quest to launch Norwegian black metal in Oslo in the 1990s results in a very violent outcome. Don't know anything about it. Don't know if it is based on real story. I don't know the real story of it. I just literally have it on my list because I really enjoy Rory Culkin. Jack Goes Home. I think that's the same reason. Really showing my interest here. Yep, more Rory Culkin. 2016. After his father is killed in a car crash, Jack travels home to Colorado to help nurse his mother, who was injured in the crash, back to health. There he uncovers long-buried secrets and lies within his family, his friends, and his very identity. Sounds interesting. 3.1, not a bad score. Stoker. I have this one on my list for a long time, but it's never freaking streaming anywhere, for free, or any place I actually have a subscription for, so... 2013. After India's father dies suddenly, her uncle Charlie, whom she never knew existed, comes to live with her and her emotionally unstable mother. Soon after his arrival, she begins to suspect that this mysterious, charming man has ulterior motives. But instead of feeling outrage or horror, the friendless girl becomes increasingly infatuated with him. I really enjoy how often she is in movies that have sort of a more gothic tone when it comes to horror, so I do want to watch it. I really would love to watch it. It needs to be somewhere where I can actually see it. Oh shit! It's actually on HBO Max now. I'm gonna have to get on that before it disappears. Alright, Happy Death Day to You. The first one was like, whatever, it was okay. It was just essentially Groundhog Day, which I haven't seen, but know the premise of. But Horde. I'm not super excited about the second one. 2019. Collegian Tree, yeah, that's right, her name's Tree, Geldman wakes up in a horror to learn that she's stuck in a parallel universe. Her boyfriend Carter is now with someone else, and her friends and fellow students seem to be completely different versions of themselves. When Tree discovers that Carter's roommate has been altering time, she finds herself once again the target of a masked killer. When the psychopath starts to go after her inner circle, Tree soon realizes she must die over and over again to save everyone. 2.7, yeah, so this one isn't very well liked. This one was a recommendation from a Tumblr mutual, so I'm interested. I think it's more of a slow burn movie. A Dark Song, 2016. A determined young woman and a damaged occultist risk their lives and souls to perform a dangerous ritual that will grant them what they want. It's lesser known, so I'm very interested in watching this one. Savage Land, again, a rec from that same Tumblr mutual. It is found footage, but like I think in a different way than usual. If this website would actually load what I want to see. Savage Land came out in 2015. When a small town near Arizona-Mexico border is wiped out overnight, suspicion falls on the lone survivor. But a roll of photos the survivor took that night tells a different story. That's a really interesting premise. Kiss of the Damned. Sounds like a vampire movie, but I don't want to be talking out my ass again, so I'm going to wait to see. 2012. Beautiful vampire Jejuna tries to resist the advances of the handsome human screenwriter Paolo, but eventually gives in to their passion. When her seductive and highly volatile sister Mimi unexpectedly comes to visit, she threatens Jejuna's new relationship, and the whole vampire community becomes endangered. Also, I can tell that I put this on my list because Milo Ventimiglia. 2.8. Could be better, but vampire movie. Mandy, Nicolas Cage movie. I'm trying more Nicolas Cage. I watched Face Off and I absolutely loved it. I haven't experienced that much joy in a movie in a while, so. Mandy, 2018. The Shadow Mountains, 1983. Red and Mandy lead a loving, peaceful existence, but when their pine-scented haven is savagely destroyed, Red is catapulted into a phantasmagoric journey filled with bloody vengeance and laced with fire. 3.6. I'm intrigued. It's Nicolas Cage. It'll be crazy. Neon Demon. I specifically have this on my list because it's Elle Fanning, and I absolutely love her, so whether it's good or not, I'll just enjoy it, you know? 2016. When aspiring model Jessie moves to Los Angeles, her youth and vitality are devoured by a group of beauty-obsessed women who will take any means necessary to get what she has. I am going to take that word devoured and assume that they're actually going to eat her. But I could be wrong. Twixt. This one came out in 2011. And this is another Elle Fanning movie. I very clearly show my interests in actors by just lumping a whole bunch of their acting history into my watch list. A washed-up horror novelist arrives in a sleepy town on a book tour, only to stumble into a string of eerie murders. Haunted by dreams of a ghostly girl named V, and guided by the spirit of Edgar Allan Poe, he's drawn into a nightmarish world where fiction and reality blur, and the story he's chasing leads back to his own buried guilt. 2.7, not great, and I'll get around to it eventually. They're Watching, very ominous title. 2016. I'm interested in what made me choose this. Maybe there's someone in it that I wanted to see. An American TV crew gets trapped in the centuries-old web of revenge, horror, and blood when their home improvement show is attacked by angry Eastern European villagers out to kill the show's star. I mean, it sounds funny at the very least, right? 2.8 score, not great, but I just there for a good time, you know? Raw. I think this is a cannibalism movie, if I'm not mistaken. 2016. Stringent vegetarian Justine encounters a decadent, merciless, and dangerously seductive world during her first week at veterinary school. Desperate to fit in, she strays from her principles and eats raw meat for the first time. She soon experiences terrible and unexpected consequences as her true self begins to emerge. Sounds very intriguing. Our next one is The Wailing. I think this is another foreign horror film. Came out in 2016. A stranger arrives in a little village, and soon after a mysterious sickness starts spreading, a policeman is drawn into the incident and is forced to solve the mystery in order to save his daughter. 4 stars. It's a great score. Antiviral. 2012. Sid March is employed at a clinic that sells injections of live viruses harvested from 6 celebrities to obsessed fans. When he becomes infected with the disease that kills super sensation Hannah Geist, Sid becomes a target for collectors and rabid fans. He must unravel the mystery surrounding her death before he suffers the same fate. Sounds like there might be some body horror in this one. I am a little sensitive to that sometimes, but I'm also very intrigued by it. It's one of those can't look away sort of things. Train to Busan, I know I should have watched it already. I know it's supposed to be great. I will watch it. When a zombie virus pushes Korea into a state of emergency, those trapped on an express train to Busan must fight for their own survival. That sounds harrowing as hell. 4 stars. I want to get to it as soon as possible. As above, so below. This one obviously takes place in France. I think it's about the caves where they keep the skeletons, if I'm not mistaken. When a team of explorers venture into the catacombs, that lie beneath the streets of Paris, they uncover the dark secret that lies within this city of the dead. Wonder if it's a creature feature or not? That'd be interesting to see. Saint Maud. I haven't heard a ton about this. I know that it was popular. It was only a few years ago, too. Having recently found God, a self-effacing young nurse, Maud, arrives at a plush home to care for Amanda, a hedonistic dancer left frail from a chronic illness. When a chance encounter with a former colleague throws up hints of a dark past, it becomes clear there is more to Sweet Maud than meets the eye. Religious horror is interesting, not in a fanatic sort of way. I'm not talking about, sort of exorcism sort of way. Escape Room. This one, I think, was popular. I don't know if it's well liked, but lots of people were watching it. 2019. 6 strangers find themselves in circumstances beyond their control and must use their wits to survive. It seems like a sort of Saw situation. Obviously not as torture-y. 2.9 is not a great score, but Scary stories to tell in the dark, based off those books that everyone used to see in the store or at the library when you were a kid. I think it's more I think it's for younger audiences, so I don't know how great it would be, how scary it would be, but Mill Valley, Pennsylvania, Halloween night, 1968. After playing a joke on a school bully, Stella and her friends decide to sneak into a supposedly haunted house that once belonged to the powerful Bellows family, unleashing dark forces they will be unable to control. 2.8, so the scoring's not great. I'm not sure that audiences enjoyed this one so much. Color of Space. I think this is another Nicolas Cage one. I think it's supposed to be pretty wild from what I heard. The Gardner family moves to a remote farmstead in rural New England to escape the hustle of the 21st century. They are busy adapting to their new life when a meteorite crashes into their front yard, melts into the earth, and infects both the land and the properties of space-time with a strange, otherworldly color. To their horror, the family discovers this alien force is gradually mutating every life form it touches, including them. Ooh, so some body horror. 3.2, not bad. Gonjam Haunted Asylum. Came out in 2018. I think this is this is a found footage one. The crew of a horror web series travels to an abandoned asylum for a live broadcast, but they encounter much more than expected as they move deeper inside the nightmarish old building. If you notice, a lot of found footage has to do with asylums. I don't love that. It can get ableist sometimes, but I have hopes. Apostle, 2018. 1905, a man travels to a remote island in search of his missing sister who has been kidnapped by a mysterious religious cult. So that's what I was talking about. Religious horror, but in a cult sort of sense, in a fanatic sort of sense, and not a exorcism, banishing sort of sense. So I'm interested in that one. It has Dan Stevens, too. He's pretty good in horror movies, the ones I've seen so far. Gerald's Game, another Stephen King adaptation. Came out in 2017. When her husband's sex game goes wrong, Jessie, who is handcuffed to a bed in a remote lake house, faces warped visions, dark secrets, and a dire choice. I wonder how the game goes wrong. That sounds really daunting. I don't like the sound of that. This one, and the Apocalypse, is part of a genre that I have started to be very, very fond of, which is horror musicals. I love them. I have for a while. There's not a ton of them, but they always really bring joy to me, even if they suck. This one, a zombie apocalypse threatens the sleepy town of Little Haven at Christmas, forcing Anna and her friends to fight, slash, and sing their way to survival. In a desperate race to reach their loved ones, they soon learn that no one is safe in this new world, and with civilization falling apart around them, the only people they can truly rely on are each other. 3.1's not a bad score. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I think this is more like I don't know if the score of this one's great, but it sounds intriguing to me. Father and son coroners receive a mysterious unidentified corpse with no apparent cause of death. As they attempt to examine the Jane Doe, they discover increasingly bizarre clues that hold key to her terrifying secrets. 3.2. The Purge. Technically, have seen this. It was so long ago that I was not paying attention because I didn't want to be watching it. But I like Ethan Hawke, so I'll give it another chance. Given the country's overcrowded prisons, the U.S. government begins to allow 12-hour periods of time in which all illegal activity is legal. During one of these free-for-alls, a family must protect themselves from a home invasion. Sort of like the Purge franchise has become like so silly and blown up that it's kind of hard to take it seriously. But if I try to erase all of that from my mind and just be like, let's just think about this one premise while I'm watching it, maybe I could take it seriously. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. This is another black comedy, like a horror comedy, which I'm interested in. Two hillbillies are suspected of being killers by a group of paranoid college kids camping near the duo's West Virginian cabin. Because usually when college kids are camping somewhere in a horror movie, the hillbillies are the murderers. As the body count climbs, so does the fear and confusion as the college kids try to seek revenge against the pair. That sounds funny. Devil. Okay, so this is an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I also think it's supposed to be pretty shitty, but I want to just... Oh, no, it's not? An M. Night Shyamalan movie? I think I might have the wrong one on my list. A group of people are trapped in an elevator high above Philadelphia, and one of them is the devil. Why did I think it was M. Night Shyamalan? Weird. Okay. 2.7, so it's rated bad either way. The Moth Diaries. 2011. Rebecca is a young girl who, haunted by her father's suicide, enrolls in an elite boarding school for girls. Before long, her friendship with the popular Lucy is shattered by the arrival of a dark and mysterious new student named Ernessa, whom Rebecca suspects may be responsible for the rising body count at school. Vampires? 2.7 though. Maybe the acting is not on par with what it should be. Still intrigued. I like boarding school settings. Evil Dead, so this is the remake from 2013. It'll be interesting to see if a more serious take to the movie, I don't know if it is, would make me enjoy it more. Mia, a drug addict, is determined to kick the habit. To that end, she asks her brother David, his girlfriend Natalie, and their friends Olivia and Eric to accompany her to their family's remote forest cabin to help her through withdrawal. Eric finds a mysterious Book of the Dead at the cabin and reads aloud from it, awakening an ancient demon. All hell breaks loose when the malevolent entity possesses Mia. So that's interesting. Like, them actually having a reason to stay at the cabin rather than weird things are happening and they just want to be there. That one might be good. So this is The Thing, but not the one that we all know and have seen. This is 2011. I think it's a prequel. When paleontologist Kate Lloyd travels to an isolated outpost in Antarctica for the expedition of a lifetime, she joins an international team that unearths a remarkable discovery. Their elation quickly turns to fear as they realize that their experiment has freed a mysterious being from its frozen prison, the Thing. Paranoia spreads like an epidemic as a creature that can mimic anything it touches will pit human against human as it tries to survive and flourish in this spine-tingling thriller. Bad score. I'm wondering if maybe there's a lot of CGI. One thing I absolutely loved about The Thing is that the practical effects were insane. Like, everything was so wet and goopy and like it looked like it would be horrible to touch. It was horrible to look at. It was wonderful. So a more recent take on that creature might be just cheesy. Helter Skelter. 2012. Another foreign film. Top model Lilico, having recently undergone multiple cosmetic surgeries, begins to experience troubling side effects. As she desperately tries to retain her perfect image, Lilico descends into a world of nightmares and makes those around her miserable. I've heard people compare this to The Substance. Obviously, it came before The Substance, so I'm interested in that. I haven't seen The Substance yet either, as you will see in my later lists. And the next thing we'll do is do the 2020s. Let's start way back at the bottom. There's quite a few of these if you saw me scrolling. This first one has 3 actors I absolutely love in it. So, The Menu came out in 2022, starring Anya Taylor-Joy, Ralph Fiennes, and Nicholas Hoult. It's about a young couple who travels to a remote island to eat at an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises. 3.5 is a good score. I think it's one of those, eat the rich sort of movies. And I'm not a foodie or anything, so I don't know if it'll hit for me or not, but I'm interested in watching it. All My Friends Hate Me came out in 2021. A college reunion goes awry when Pete suspects his friends may be out to get him. As their weekend getaway grows more and more uncomfortable, should Pete be worried about his safety, or is it all in his head? Now that is a nightmare situation for me. As someone with social anxiety, you already feel like that all the time, but a horror movie about it sounds very psychological. The Invisible Man. Oh, so we're kind of circling right back around to the beginning. I told you that there was a remake of this. Came out in 2020. When Cecilia's abusive ex takes his own life and leaves her his fortune, she suspects his death was a hoax. As a series of coincidences turn lethal, Cecilia works to prove that she's being hunted by someone nobody can see. So that's a very different take on that. 3.4 is good. I'd be interested to see, because this one sounds like The Invisible Man, yeah, and the other one it sounded like he got violent, but this sounds like more serious of tone than the other one. It has to do with domestic violence that way. Last Night in Soho, another Anya Taylor-Joy film. Obviously, I'm a big fan. A young girl, passionate about fashion design, is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s, where she encounters her idol, a dazzling wannabe singer. But 1960s London is not what it seems, and time seems to be falling apart with shady consequences. Also, it has Matt Smith in it, who I've been really enjoying recently. I do know that some people, I know that there's a twist. I don't know what it is, and some people didn't totally enjoy it, and some people did. So I'd be interested to see what side I fall on. Next one is Skinamarink. Came out in 2022, which sounds like, honestly, the title of a fake horror movie. It's like, oh yeah, what'd you watch? I watched Skinamarink. Two children wake up in the middle of the night to find their father is missing, and all the windows and doors in their home have vanished. I know that everyone's like, you gotta watch it immersed. So it'll actually be scary. 2.8 is not great of a score. I think it may be pretty divisive, perhaps. Smile 2 came out in 2024. I did watch Smile 1. I didn't enjoy it. The effects were pretty cheesy, I thought, and took away from the actual point of the story. This one obviously is a continuation, so it might have the same problems with it, but I'd be interested to see if a different main character would make the story more interesting. About to embark on a new world tour, global pop sensation Sky Riley begins experiencing increasingly terrifying and inexplicable events. Overwhelmed by the escalating horrors and the pressures of fame, Sky is forced to face her dark past to regain control of her life before it spiraled out of control. It's an alright score. It's not on the top of my list because I just simply did not like the first one, but maybe it'll be better. Slay. Okay, so this is a lesser known one, but I just thought it sounded really fun. Came out in 2024. After a booking mistake, 4 drag queens find themselves performing for a mostly unwelcoming crowd, but when vampires attack, the crowd looks to the queens to save the day. I just thought that's an extremely fun way to do like, I don't know any other horror movies about drag queens, or especially ones that are like heroes, and it's on Tubi, which awesome. Okay, Speak No Evil. I think this is a American remake of another horror movie. It might be of the same name, so I should probably put the other one on my list as well, so I can compare them. With James McAvoy. When an American family is invited to spend the weekend at the idyllic country estate of a charming British family they befriended on vacation, what begins as a dream holiday soon warps into a snarled psychological nightmare. It has alright ratings. I haven't heard anyone speak like negatively or highly about it, so I'm sort of just on the center with that one. Alright. Orphan First Kill. I did watch the first Orphan. When you find out what the premise is, you'd be like, yeah, it's a little bit cheesy, but I thought it was good. After escaping from an Estonian psychiatric facility, Lena Klammer travels to America by impersonating Esser, the missing daughter of a wealthy family. But when her mask starts to slip, she's put against a mother who will protect her family from the murderous child, quote-unquote, at any cost. Yeah, if you didn't know, the premise of Orphan, the first one, is that she was being adopted, but she's not really a child. She has a genetic disorder that makes her look younger than she is. 2.7, so this wasn't too well received, but I do want to see how the story continues. Swallowed. This came out in 2022. Benjamin and Dom have been best friends since they were kids. On their last night together, Dom plans to send Benjamin off with a pocket full of cash. All he has to do is deliver a package over the border for a friend. That's a very interesting, picture on there. Might be some body horror. 2.7, so the score's not good. But I have heard people hype it up, so I'm still interested in it. Infinity Pool. I do tend to like Mia Goth in horror movies. So I know that this one was a lot of people were calling it hit or miss. While staying in an isolated island resort, James and Em are enjoying a perfect vacation of pristine beaches, exceptional staff, and soaking up the sun. But guided by the seductive and mysterious Gabby, they venture outside of the resort grounds and find themselves in a culture filled with violence, hedonism, and untold horror. A tragic accident leaves them facing a zero-tolerance policy for crime. Either you'll be executed, or, if you're rich enough to afford it, you can watch yourself die instead. And it's Brandon Cronenberg. So, see if he can, match his father's chops for horror or not. Renfield. Okay, so this is another Nicolas Cage. And also Nicholas Hoult. It seems a little bit on the sillier end, though, so. Having grown sick and tired of his centuries as Dracula's lackey, Renfield finds a new lease on life, and maybe even redemption, when he falls for feisty, perennially angry traffic cop Rebecca Quincy. 2.9, so it wasn't received great, but it sounds fun. Always can give it a try anyway. Dust Bunny. I haven't heard a lot about this one. I just know it came out last year. 10-year-old Aurora asks her hitman neighbor to kill the monster under her bed that she claims ate her family. To protect her, he must battle an onslaught of assassins while accepting that some monsters are real. Mads Mikkelsen is always playing hitman. It doesn't have a bad score, 3.3. Alright, Heretic. And it's very funny seeing, what's his name? Hugh Grant be like a villain in a horror movie. 2 young missionaries are forced to prove their faith when they knock on the wrong door and are greeted by a diabolical Mr. Reed, becoming ensnared in his deadly game of cat and mouse. I know that it's very long. Oh, I thought it was long. It's 111 minutes. Don't know much more about it than that. I just think Hugh Grant as a villain is very funny. Clayface. So that is actually coming out later this year, and I'm super hyped to see it. I've been enjoying the new wave of DC films a whole lot. I used to be a Marvel fan, not anymore, not for a while, because it was very disappointing, but I am cautiously excited about DC now. Following the terrifying descent into hell of a promising Hollywood actor who has become a monster driven by revenge, exploring the loss of identity and humanity, the ravages of toxic love, and the dark side of scientific ambition. I really like the body horror that we've seen in the trailers so far. The one scene where he gets his eyelids closed together and he has to try to snip them open with scissors, but he's on the plane. I cannot wait to see that. I almost looked for a score, but it hasn't been scored yet because it's not out yet. I'm silly. Okay. Starve Acre, 2023. Oh, Matt Smith. You could tell what I was thinking about at that time. When their son starts acting strangely, a couple unwittingly allow dark and sinister forces into their home, awakening a long-dormant ancient evil rooted in the countryside. Interesting. 2.9, so it might not be that good, but still gonna check it out. Talk to Me. So this is very popular, and I have actually watched the same... Not the same, sorry. I have watched the other movie that the Philippines made, what was it? Bring Her Back, and I really liked it, but even though it, absolutely devastated me, I just was, intimidated by this one, but I think if I handled that one, I could probably handle this one, too. When a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far and unleashes terrifying supernatural forces. I think during the marketing, they were, selling those hands, which, I know it's not real, but why would you want to fuck with that? You know what I mean? Trap. Okay, I think this is a Shyamalan. I know the last time I said that, I was wrong. Nope, I'm right. I've heard from, someone who's watched it. It's not very good. I just want to be able to see it anyway, just to give my 2 cents about it. A father and teen daughter attend a pop concert where they realize they're at the center of a dark and sinister event. From what I've heard about it, that's not a good description. 2.6. I think he's actually a murderer himself, but I could be wrong. Okay, Leviticus. I wanted to go see this in theaters so bad. It was out on Pride Month, but I didn't have money at the time, and I'm so angry I didn't get to see it at the time. Two teenage boys must escape a violent entity that takes the form of the person they desire most, each other. It's another, I think it's Australian horror film. Just really excited about it, but I could not get to go see it. I'll have to try to rent it sometime if I'm able. 3.8 is a good score. Pretty Lethal, that came out this year too. I don't think it's scored very well, and I think they have it on like Amazon Prime or something. A troupe of ballerinas find themselves fighting for survival as they attempt to escape from a remote inn after the bus breaks down on the way to a dance competition. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, and I think that's why I'm intrigued. Yeah, 2.7. I'm sure it's shit. Him. I heard a lot of discussion about this, mostly about how it fell flat from its potential, but I'm intrigued. After suffering a potentially career-ending brain trauma, Cameron Cade receives a lifeline when his hero, legendary 8-time championship quarterback and cultural megastar Isaiah White, offers to train Cam in Isaiah's isolated compound that he shares with his celebrity influencer wife. But as Cam's training accelerates, Isaiah's charisma begins to curdle into something darker. I've seen it described as Black Swan for boys, but I don't know. 2.5, yeah, I don't think it was received very well. Hard Eyes. I think this came out in, 2025. Saw commercials for it, thought it looked stupid, but it might be fun. When the Hard Eyes killer strikes Seattle, a pair of co-workers pulling overtime on Valentine's Day are mistaken for a couple by the elusive couple-hunting killer. Now they must spend the most romantic night of the year running for their lives. So, another Valentine's Day one. I was saying that My Bloody Valentine was the only other one I knew about. This is rated bad, but I think maybe it could be cute, a little fucked up meet cute kind of situation. The Substance. I'm still being a big weenie and haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm scared, honestly. Most people have watched it now, but if you haven't, it's about a fading celebrity deciding to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. 3.7. I've heard a lot of people say how great it is. I want to watch it. I just have to be brave enough to, Presents. 2024. A couple and their children move into a seemingly normal suburban home. When the strange events occur, they begin to believe there is something else in the house with them. The presence is about to disrupt their lives in unimaginable ways. It is very vague. 2.9, so it wasn't very well received. I think and I might be mistaken. Correct me in the comments if anybody knows. I think this one might have been the one that was the movie that was marketed as this is from a sort of a ghost perspective of a haunting or whatever, but I'm not sure. Oddity. Okay, I have seen this director's other I think it's the same director. Let me see. Okay. Possibly not. But yes, I've seen this director's other movie, Caveat, and I really enjoyed it. So I think that's why this is on my list. Oddity 2024. After the brutal murder of her twin sister, Darcy goes after those responsible by using haunted items as their tools for revenge. I think that's an interesting take on a revenge story, I haven't quite heard of something like that before. Another vampire movie. This one is called Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. Sasha is a young vampire with a serious problem. She's too sensitive to kill. When her exasperated parents cut off her blood supply, Sasha's life is in jeopardy. Luckily, she meets Paul, a lonely teenager with suicidal tendencies who is willing to give his life to save hers. But their friendly agreement soon becomes a nocturnal quest to fulfill Paul's last wishes before day breaks. It sounds very emotional and sort of touching rather than horrific, and I think that's probably why I want to watch it so badly. Old. Okay, so do I want to watch this? No, but do I have sort of a fear of missing out about this? Yeah, because so many people have seen it, just so they can make fun of it. And I really I'm like, oh, do I have to too? Maybe. Okay. Essentially, if you don't know, it's essentially the movie where everyone's like, yeah, it's the beach that makes you old. But I'll read the description anyway. A group of families on a tropical holiday discover that the secluded beach where they are staying is somehow causing them to age rapidly, reducing their entire lives to a single day. 2.5. I'm not surprised. M. Night Shyamalan used to do really... his stories used to be very good. And recently they have not been. And it's disappointing, but maybe one day, or maybe not. Army of the Dead. Following a zombie outbreak in Las Vegas, a group of mercenaries take the ultimate gamble, venturing into the quarantine zone to pull off the greatest heist ever attempted. It looks very stylized, and, just... I told you I don't watch too many zombie movies unless they're interesting, but it looks stylized. And I do like that they are like a group of mercenaries. I haven't really seen that in a zombie movie yet. Also, Ella Purnell, I'm very fond of her as well, and she's in it. Gretel and Hansel. I remember, I think, back when this came out, a lot of people were being really stupid about, the switch of the name, oh, it must be, a feminist retelling or something, because Hansel is second. No, it's just, maybe it's just about Gretel, that's okay. But it's not something to get angry about, but people love to complain, so... A long time ago in a distant fairy tale countryside, a young girl leads her little brother into a dark wood in desperate search of food and work, only to stumble upon a nexus of terrifying evil. Osgood Perkins, I think he also directed The Monkey, which I hated, but I could give him a chance. 2.8 is not a very good score, though. And also, what's wrong with a feminist retelling, you know what I mean? If it's done well. Usually they're not, because they don't understand what makes the actual story misogynistic in the first place. But Werewolf. Okay, this is coming out this year by Robert Eggers, and I enjoy most of his movies so far. They're very stylized. They're very period accurate, which is interesting in what they wear in the speech. This one, A Tale of Devotion, Damnation, and the Evil Within. It's a werewolf story, which I'm interested to see his take of. Again, I scrolled down for the rating, and there isn't one yet, because it's not out yet. Kinds of Kindness. I don't remember what this one is. 2024. Please load. Screen. Okay. A triptych fable following a man without choice who tries to take control of his own life. A policeman who is alarmed that his wife was missing at sea has returned and seems a different person, and a woman determined to find a specific someone with a special ability who is destined to become a prodigious spiritual leader. So it sounds like it is a whole array of things. I don't quite understand how it's a horror movie, but I would have to watch that to find out. I'm intrigued, though. Okay, we're getting to the last line of them here. This one is The House, 2022. Across different eras, a poor family, an anxious developer, and a fed-up landlady become tied to the same mysterious house in this animated dark comedy. I was saying that I haven't watched many animated horror films, so that is very intriguing for me. 3.6 is a good score. Also, Mia Goth is in it. That's a perk. A classic horror story. I think this was on Netflix at some point. I scrolled past it. 2021. 5 people traveling by camper crash into a tree. When they recover, the road they were driving on has been replaced by an impenetrable forest and a wooden house. That sounds actually pretty threatening, but it's shit score-wise, and yeah, maybe it's a Netflix original, so maybe that's why it's bad. I'm not sure. Godzilla Minus One came out in 2023. I haven't seen any other Godzilla movies, so this one is up there on my list just because I'm intrigued. I am interested in it being a horror movie. I looked up beforehand if you need to watch any of the others to understand this one, and it said no, it's like a new take on it. Let's read the summary. In post-war Japan, Godzilla brings new devastation to an already scorched landscape. With no military intervention or government to help in sight, the survivors must join together in the face of despair and fight back against unrelenting horror. And it has a very good score. Yeah, I've heard, other people talk about it, and it's apparently very good. Hokum came out this year. I didn't get to see it in theaters. Gonna try to catch it on streaming sometime. When novelist Owen Bowman retreats to a remote inn to scatter his parents' ashes, he is consumed by tales of a witch haunting the honeymoon suite. Disturbing visions and a shocking disappearance forces him to confront dark corners of his past. Oh, so it's also directed by the same guy that directed Caveat. He has sort of like a folklore flair about some of his projects, is what I've learned so far. Seems to have an okay score. The last one, finally, thank God, is Cold Storage. Came out this year, didn't see it in theaters, because I thought it wasn't going to be that good, but I want to watch it at home. When a mutating, highly contagious fungus escapes a sealed facility, 2 employees, joined by a grizzled bioterror operative, must survive the wildest night shift to ever save humanity from extinction. Joe Curie's in it, and I'm a fan of him, even though the show he was in previously, which I shall not mention, went to shit. I want to see what he does now. I don't think it has a good score. 2.8. Let's go back to my watch list. That was all of the horror movies. It was all 185. I can't believe we went through that many. It's wild how much I underestimated how long this was going to go for. I'm like, 185? That's cool. I'm going to zip through this real quick. It's going to be a short video. Just get it out there. Have a little bit of fun. This took so long to film, and probably is going to take even longer to edit. But I really do want you guys' opinions on which ones you think I should watch, first, what should be my priority. Also, which ones you'd like to hear me actually talk about on the channel. I'm not in short review form, probably do a long breakdown if possible. And, thank you for listening for so long if you did. And if you did enjoy, maybe think about liking and subscribing. I have a fun goal of getting to 26 subscribers by the end of 2026. And I'll see you all in the next one.